Hello and welcome. Today, I want to talk about improving your training and giving you some ideas. Um, this could possibly be for medium to advanced students, but for beginners as well, it can hopefully set your path up very nicely. I also wanted to apologize. Not that I set myself a goal that I would do a video every week. I'm aware I set something like that up. I have been doing videos every week, and I just haven't been releasing them. There's been a part where maybe the information contains something that's not ready for public consumption, and I just sort of park it. Um, my goal is to release information that contains quality, and so that would definitively be a goal. But to say it must be something released every day or something's released every week, that's what they do in companies, right? For marketing, because you got to get the word out, and even if you've got a crap product, as long as you've got really good marketing, you're going to fool like 30% of the people, and you can still make a revenue like that. Um, I think that's really unethical. And my model is to continually focusing on the quality. So I'm like an R&D machine with, with very poor marketing. And I wish to share with you some of that R&D. So let's have a look at Wing Chun. Of course, that's what this channel is dedicated to. And if we have a look at the sort of syllabus that's set out, and I'm going to compare that to what makes Wing Chun Qigong different, and then give you some things to help you out. You normally have a Silnan Dao, Tom Q, Bill G, wooden dummy, move on to the pole, the knives, and you've sort of run the gauntlet. And of course, with that, you then have also partner training where you have like Dan Chi Sao, Chi Sao. You can have some other drills and partner sets. And then that should flow on to a bit more free sparring, not certain deviations. So let's talk about some deviations. You're doing Chi Sao, but you think it's a point scoring system where you slap each other, or you think Chi Sao is sparring. There are sort of misconceptions. How you're using those tools, right? I think that's fine if you know why and how you're using them. Um, for the school I run, it's the GSAO is a pressure test of your structure. That's really what it's about. You're working towards um, understanding your structure and making sure it can withhold the pressure that's coming in. There are, of course, other intentions and other seeds to be planted that you can work on as you go through that. But I see that one as a as foundational that then you build on top of that. If we get locked into things like I said, a point scoring, and then we can lose sight of the structural component, and then these other energetic and mind components, or we could call spiritual components of the art, and then you've kind of gone off, I would say, on the wrong path, right? It may not be the wrong path if you know all you really want to do is hit things. You think that's going to make you happy. But if you're looking for a deeper quality of life and an art that has no boundaries, just keeps progressing, then you got to work towards these other areas. So too with the forms. Look, they're funny things because they're really important. But let's say all you did was the forms. I'm now going to talk about the improvement and sort of frameworks I've been mapping out. If you look at something like mobility, now mobility is to do with your joint rotation and flexibility. And flexibility incorporates having mobility of joints, but also stretchy muscles and fascia, right? So just distinguish between those two categories. For a while there, I used to sort of mash them, but you want to be more scientific and specific with your training. If you look at the whole set that I just mentioned, and you compare that to a flexibility and mobility training, let's say you had a scale of 0 is poor, 10's great, where do you think that would rate? When I look at it, I'll tell you my answer. I don't think it rates very high for flexibility in any way, shape, or the forms. If you compare the forms to something like a taekwondo or karate, and the amount of stretching and things they do for their high kicks and other things, I think there's something people in Wing Chun need to be cognizant of if they have been something's being watered down so much that they're missing something that's very important for martial arts and also for your health. So when I look at the Wing Chun Qigong syllabus that has been handed down to me, there is a component that is filled with flexibility and mobility training within it. It is more than that, but it definitively contains that within it. And that's what's practiced. And then you're building your body ready to perform the form in a certain way. And if you don't have that in your training right now, you are doing yourself a great disservice. And so you don't have to come and do the course and the lineage that has been handed down to me. You can do your own research, look around on the interwebs. There's plenty of people who love to teach flexibility training, mobility training, and so forth. The other part is what can be called the Qigong component, or I see it as bioelectricity. All right, it is an energy, it's a substance that you can feel. And if you're just doing your Silim Tao, Chum Q, piercing hands without this substance, then you're missing that component. And I would also say it's very difficult to develop these chi qualities with just those forms. It can be done, but I think it's very difficult. And the reason I say that is because I've been trained in many types of Qigong and practiced them and studied them at length and have found like a unique technique that goes, that's how you get into the Qi door and enter through. And you can get there so quickly. But if you're sort of focusing on your stance and your structure and how your hand, in the beginning, you can kind of miss the magic and easiness of entering into this state to discover the energy. The other important thing about that energy is it's very nourishing. So if you're performing very hard training, you need something to nourish you. So this is why it's good to have mobility. And then if you're doing hard training, you can nourish yourself with Qigong to keep the hardness going. And then you can sort of cool down with the flexibility training. You don't necessarily want to put the flexibility up front because it stretches on tendons and it's easy to injure yourself. Again, all of these things are from modern day sports science. But if you look at the ancients and how they do their practices in any sort of, you can look in a karate school or this school, and it needs to be a traditional school, not a Mac dojo. And you'll see it progresses like that. Innately, they knew that it's about mobility. Then it's about, I'm going to look at these two words, power versus force. I'll talk about them in a sec because they are different. And then you have the flexibility cool down. The other is how you perform the form, right? So this is me sort of teaching you to break, like you have the form, but you break away from it, that because otherwise you get too mechanistic or just religious with your thinking. It's just this thing, but you got to free yourself from that. And let's say you do the form slowly all the time, like people who only do Tai Chi slowly. As an example, we'll compare those. If people only did their Wing Chun slowly and their Tai Chi slowly, I would say that if you're just doing it for health and you just need these movements, then okay, that's really all you're going to get out of it. A very light type of health because you're moving lymph and blood through your system. That's about it. People who promise, curing this disease and it does this, I think that's all marketing nonsense. Well, I'm happy to say it. I do. I've looked into it, and I found a whole bunch of stuff that's just crap. And I've eliminated all those and found the things that actually work and are, empirical and repeatable, and they produce results. That's the real world. And so if you're just doing slow movements, you got to know why you're doing it that way. And the reason for me, and if I'm saying it is the absolute reason, is because you're slowing things down for the intricacy of how you're moving in preparation for when you move fast. And that leads to this other part. Do you have that fast training? And this is what I mean when I say hard training, because you're speeding things up. And you have to be very careful here, because this is the part where it's very easy to injure yourself. Your joints, your tendons, your muscles, right? So that's why you got to have the warm up. That's, again, sports science. Like if people go out in the footy field and they go hard, right? Now, the other part is about the type of force versus power. And this is a big argument. I think if we look at the word's jin, I would call that power. And then if you're using force, because you're physically using force, then it's li, it's muscular strength. Anyway, I might change those force and power again in the future. But the idea is this. If you're using muscular force, like lifting weights, okay, that's li. And if you're using a force that's based on your skeletal system and your body mass, and the transference of power is due to you harmonizing that mass and accelerating it to a point, and then throwing in things like multi-directional force, there are other ingredients to throw in, and there's different ways to produce it, then I would call this jin, okay, or nei jin, the inch force. All right, so here are two other I think, extremely important components. So if you're only doing slow, you're never really going to get this jin, I don't think, right? I could be proven wrong there. I mean, I got to be careful being absolute like that. I just think it might take you a lot longer. The idea of your standing practice producing this type of resonance force, yeah, like that can do it. So I got to be sort of careful there, right? But but if you do the two together, you'll get it much quicker and it'll become exponentially faster and you'll get better at it. The other part is, using weights. Please remember, there are old photos of Yip Man, and he's doing Silman Dao, and he's got a bunch of rings on his hand, forearm, right? Why does he have those rings? Well, like, it looks cool, right? It's a traditional costume, like wearing pajamas. It's not. He's doing weight training, right? And he's doing weight training with his functional movement, which is the Tan Sao. And then he would flip that around, come back into Wu Sao, and then go into a Fuk Sao, because these are the first movements taught to you in the Silden Dao. These are the feelers, so you know where the opponent is in regards to your center line and where you should position your body, right? And so you want as strong a bridge as possible on that contact point. And that's exactly what that weight training does. You shouldn't jump into the weight training as a beginner because you don't really understand what structure is and how to release your muscles. We can call this song, right? How to release your muscles and expand your joints and bones. But once you grasp that and you understand how to run a force vector through your body to absorb force and also reposition it back out, well, you're ready. You're ready for that weight training because you understand where you can turn things off and how to turn them on. So this is another part where you should be looking into that and balancing it. If not balancing those two, um, I would also look. I'm happily to argue. I mean, I'd have to go and research a bunch more scientific material, but the health benefits of actually having muscular strength. Isn't there recorded things that people who can do more than at least 20 push-ups are X percentage less likely to have a stroke? I believe there is. So I don't know the exact number. Let's say you can do 20 push-ups, you're 80% less likely to have a stroke. It's up there. I don't know exactly what it is. There's a clear one. How about grip strength? How about your grip strength of your hands in comparison to longevity? So these things are scientifically there. And if we look at that, you are then combining the two, Li and Ji. They're different types of training, but they will complement each other as you go along. All right. Have I covered? Look, there's more thing. I guess I should throw in one last one because we've spoken about energy, we've spoken about physical, we've spoken about the physics of force vectors. The other is Shen, or your mind, your consciousness, your spirit, whatever you wish to call it. The type of mind training that you're doing. I'm not going to break this one down here. This is one I'm really enjoying right now with my meditation training, with a teacher of mine, breaking down a few aspects. And I just want you to know that with your Wing Chun training, you have to use differing aspects of your mind. If you think it's just mindfulness, then you've missed the point. But if you have mindfulness, but you have these other components, then you're on the right path. In addition, you will find people arguing a lot about different things, that they don't know meditation and they're intertwining these things into Wing Chun, but the original Wing Chun only had, say, what they call a Japanese mushin, or an empty mind, mu, empty void. So it's neither on, it's neither off, it's mu. It's pretty cool. I like the word mu. But you have like an emptiness of your mind, and there shouldn't be anything else there. There is a truth to that. Yes, like I'm pointing you now. If you're listening, you're actually taking on what I say and you want to train. Look to still your mind, but don't think that's it, is all I'm saying. But at least achieve that. And what it means is when you know what these other components are, they will be much further heightened. And there is scientific proof, which is quite neat, that the greater your concentration, the greater the amplitude of your chi. So if you really want to produce a laser-like mind, that's concentration, yeah, you want to produce concentration, you need to have a good foundation of mushin, of empty mind. Just like if you want a good kung fu, you need a good foundation of your postural structure, and hence why Silman Dao is the first form. It's pointing to you. So Wing Chun is an amazing art, how it's very simplistic and it's pointing you to the way. But if, as they say in Zen, if you're off by an inch, you're going to be off by 10,000 miles. So make sure you get those foundational pieces correct. And I really hope this talk has started to allow you to use your mind, your left hemisphere mind, your intelligence, your logical thinking, your analysis, to break these things down in order for you to create a path you can then create daily training to test that path. And the ones that work, you can keep stepping up. You may find there's ones that have been given to you from tradition, and you can cast them aside because you've found something much better. But it takes a very sort of brave person to do that, and also a stupid person. So, but if you've got the intelligence behind it and your own self-study, analysis, scientific testing, and proof, then you're well within your rights to do so. And that's why science was, invented, to do those things, to break down the falsity that has been handed to you. And I want you to know that we've all been handed this falseness, but it's our job to work through. And I think that's the last bit, why I'm giving you this. The most difficult thing in this world, and this is why intelligence agencies do this on purpose, because they know how damaging it is misinformation. You can give people pepperings of truth, but you make sure you add in a little bit of salt of falseness. And the human mind, this type of propaganda, sort of trains the human mind that it's all true, and they overlook the falseness. In your training, you have to be objectively critical of yourself and your training. Don't worry about everyone else. And objectively critical of the techniques that have been provided to you, and assess them, continue to reassess and measure them. And only then will you produce, via a scientific method, the appropriate quality that you deserve, if that's what you're aiming to achieve, which was the title of this video, which I'm ending now: how to improve your training. All right, have a great day and all the best.